We're doing, my beautiful ladies. Thank you so much for joining us for our weekly class on Zera Shimshon. Just give me one moment if you don't mind. We'll read. Okay, I will read the dedications. 2 seconds, if you don't mind. 2 seconds. The class is dedicated to Leilu Nishmat Dora Bat Zilpa, as well as Refuah Shleima Levi Yosef Ben Zulaycha, as well as. Give me a moment. We have a few sponsors. 1 second. Okay. It's Leilu Nishmat Tamara Bat Yael Tov, Sarah Bat Tamara, Lida Rivka Bat Sarah. Also Leilu Nishmat, my neighbor, Sarah Bat Shoshana. Refuah Shlema, Abraham Artur Ben Tamara, Yuvdo Ben Fricho, Aaron Ben Tamara, Nekadam Bat Lipko, Mira Bat Fricha, for success and health, Sarah Bat Nekadam, Ariela Bat Nekadam, David Shlomo Ben Nekadam, Adam Joshua Ben Nekadam. Also, for Refuah Shlema, Avinoam Yosef Nisim Ben Shoshana Rosa, Esther Malka Bat Shura, Malkilcha Ben Shura, Jonathan Ben Hila, Tamara Bat Ksiya, Maxim Yehuda Ben Yafa, Moshe Ben Yafa, Maya Mazal Bat Ziva, Tamara Bat Ksiya, Nachana Bat Tamara, Zoe Bat Tamara, Larissa Lei Bat Shura, Marina Maza Bat Shura, Yulia Yeshua Bat Chaya Esther, among all the sick people of Klal Yisrael. Also, for all the singles who are still trying to get married to the right ones, may Kadosh Baruch Hu send you the right one. This year, Bekarov, should get married to your original zivug, and it should happen by Hashem Bekarov. And whoever has kids of a shidduch age, Kadosh Baruch Hu should send our children the right zivug, Bekarov, Bezrat Hashem, and Parnasat Tovat, Bridai, Shalom Bayit, Briyut. Everybody should do tshuva shlema, benachad v'lebatzar, peace in Eretz Israel, peace in the United States, and all over the world. And when Mashiach should come, barachamim gdolim. I want to tell you two interesting news happened yesterday, which affected me in a very big way. And I want to start my class with this. I have a neighbor whom I always used to pray for. She lived two doors down from me. Her name was Sarah Aharon, Sarah Bat Shoshana. She was sick, and we were praying for her for Shalem. Every time I gave a shiur, I always mentioned her name. Her birthday happens to be the birthday of my husband, which is tomorrow, and she was born the same year, same month, the same date, and the same year. And I remember when once we were having a ride together in the car, we're driving to the wedding together. This is how we found out. We started to talk, and she says that, oh, it's her birthday coming up, and we were like, whoa, it's the same as my husband. So long story short, she was supposed to turn, by English birthday, she was supposed to turn tomorrow 64. Sunday morning, 7 a.m, I open my phone, and I see somebody posting in one of the chats, the world lost a tzaddiket today. I couldn't believe it. I said to myself, who is this? I check, and it was her Refuah Shalema chat that I was in. And I tried to scroll back up to see who are they talking about. Don't tell me it's Sarah. And the daughter says, unfortunately, it's hard to inform, but that we'd like to inform the passing of our mother. She says, Sarah Bat Shoshana. I could not fathom it. I was heartbroken. I was crying all day yesterday. I was crying today. And my brother and my husband said, why are you crying so much for your neighbor? I said, you have no idea. She was more than a neighbor. She was a friend. She was a role model that everybody needed to look up to, including myself. She was the person who I was a neighbor with for 22 years. We lived 2 doors away. And she was the person who was happy for your success and was deeply saddened for your troubles and challenges. I want to tell you what we can learn from this woman. There was a recording, they took her to Israel, and she was buried today. And I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I did most of this watching of a funeral of Hespedim people gave. Her son-in-law spoke, Moshe. He's an Ashkenaz guy who married, I think, her youngest daughter. The daughter was 30. We were at the wedding 2 years ago. And the daughter was 30 at that time. And the son-in-law was 24. I didn't know. You cannot even tell she was 30. She looks so young looking. And the son-in-law, you could never tell he's 24. He looks like he's 30. Like, not in a bad way, like in a mature way. Not that he looks older. He's not. He doesn't. And he spoke, she's Afghani, and the son-in-law, this son-in-law was an Ashkenaz guy from West Hampstead. And he spoke, he was crying. He was crying. Tall, handsome guy. He said, he spoke in Hebrew. And he said, she was buried in Tel Aviv. And I saw how it's different the way they do it in Israel than here. Her body was wrapped in a black cloth and was put in front. We do, I think, in a like a casket or something, but they put in a black cloth, and the body is there. And when they buried her, they also put the body with the black cloth, and then they removed the black cloth. It's not the same as in America. The son-in-law spoke and he said, it's very hard to believe that Ima is not here. He calls her Ima, mommy. It was very touching because not every son-in-law can call mother-in-law Ima. And he said, she said, she accepted me like a son. When I came to their house, she always greeted me so warmly, and that's how she was. And she used to call us Moshe Shelanu, our Moshe. A lesson for us to learn: accept our in-laws with open, stretched out hands. Our son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, let them feel like they're like this is their home. Because this is what they're gonna remember about you. If somebody can cry like this and say those words, you could see that how sincere the person is. That speaks volumes. You have to make such an impact on the person to be able that the in-laws will cry for you. You understand? People don't cry for their own parents like this. How he cried for his mother-in-law. Her daughter spoke, the youngest, Ariella, who she's married to Moshe, and she said, my mother said always since our childhood that children in Shemayim choose their parents. And she says, this is the best decision I ever made by choosing my mom. I was like, wow, profound. And she said, my mother always taught us about the power of tzniut. And she always taught us how Hashem is with me. And she would get into the car and she would always say, Hashem iti, Hashem is with me. And she would tell the kids, say it, say Hashem iti, Hashem is with me. And this same Sarah, she taught me many years ago. She said, my mother-in-law was so special, she said. She married her cousin. She said, my mother-in-law was so special. She said that she said that her walls of her house never saw her hair. I looked at her, I said, are you serious? Long time ago, she shared this with me. I go, I learned it about from like unbelievable stories from Tzadikot, but in a real time, she goes, absolutely. She goes, she lived in Afghanistan, my mother-in-law, she said. And she said she would always have a hair covering and she would brush it under and she would put a pony or whatever if it's small, and only in the bathroom, I guess, when she take a shower, that the bathroom saw whatever, but never in the house. The house walls never saw her hair. And she said all her children came out to be Talmidim Chachamim and Talmidot Chachamot. She says, I cannot even begin to tell you what special kids she had. Talking about her mother-in-law. The level of tzniut. She herself was going to treatment as a Sloan Gathering. And she would come back, and I would see her on the street, on the block. And she, no matter what, you would ask her, she would say, you would ask her, how are you feeling, Sarah? Just Baruch Hashem. And she always had a wig on, nicely done. Had the lipstick on. If I don't feel good, I don't care about the makeup. I could just be as plain Jane, but she always had a lipstick on. And she always was dressed like a dignity. Like, and her daughter mentioned it at her funeral. She said, my mother always taught us that we are Bas Melech. She says, the reason I have a high self-esteem and self-conscious feeling that I'm a Bas Melech today is because my mother instilled it in me. Yesterday, in the evening, I went to my cousin's wedding. My cousin was marrying off his youngest son. And I said to myself, my eyes are like puffed up from crying all day. And I have to be at the wedding. I have to look good. I have to look happy. And I have to be cheerful. Baruch Hashem, I was okay. And she had a stunning dress. Today I went to my cousin, and she said, did you like my dress? I said, I loved it. So I go to her, how much was it? So she says, it was a $3,000 dress. I was like, wow. And I go, you know what? It's worth it. You know what she says to me, my cousin? She says, my father always called me Queen. And he would name her name. And her name was also one of the names of the queens of England. My father always called me a queen. So I always have this dignity that I have to look good, I have to dress good, well, and I have to look my best. I said, I love it. Kol hakavod to you. And you know what? We all have to be like this. Which comes to teach us, we need to be always a Bas Melech. We need to act like Bas Melech, get dressed like Bas Melech, speak like Bas Melech, talk like Bas and walk like Bas Melech, a daughter of the king, because your father is the richest man in the world. That's right. Your father in heaven is the richest man in the world. And he could give you anything you want and you need in the blink of a moment. And the daughter, Ariella, when she spoke about her mom, she said, I remember an incident. She goes, when I was 10 years old, and she asked me to go to Wasserman. I'll meet you in Wasserman. She goes, I went. It was here, Main Street. And she goes, I was waiting for my mom. I was waiting for a few minutes. I was getting nervous. Why is my mom not coming? She goes, I looked out the door to see if my mom is coming. She said, I saw my mom. I was so happy. And my mom was carrying, she says, a box with a pizza and a can of soda. And she goes, I thought as a 10-year-old, oh, wow, my mom stopped by a pizza place to buy me a snack. She goes, and I see there was a homeless person who was collecting tzedakah from the wasserman. She opened the box of pizza, put in front of him, opened a can of soda, put a soda in it, a straw in it, and offered him with a smile and say, enjoy it. She goes, this was my mom. And I could tell you how I benefited from her tremendously throughout being a neighbor for 22 years. From her kind word, from her good deeds. I had my daughter, who is almost 17 this year, Bezrat Hashem, in August. And when I had her, I needed help like any mother who just had a baby. And I remember she called me and she asked me, I had one child before that. Because what does your child like? Can I make you this? Can I make you this? Is he going to eat it? Is your husband going to eat it? Are you going to eat it? I said, of course. So she made me a tray of chicken with the sweet potato under with the duck sauce on top. And she made me two kinds of fishes. One was a flounder fillet which was baked, and then sautéed peppers with the tomato sauce and onions, purple onion, and sautéed with the tomato paste, and then put on top of it in the oven. I used to make it for years after this. I asked her a rice, Persian rice, and then I'm trying to remember, and every time she would get food from, let's say she had a bris milah of her grandson, and tons of food would come home after the caterer, and she would send me trays of food. She's like, you have a little children, I'm sure they could use it, please, don't feel uncomfortable or embarrassed or anything, please, you're doing a mitzvah because the food is not going to get wasted. And I would take whatever I need, whatever I don't need, I would pass down to other neighbors. This is the woman that was larger than life. She calls one day recently and she says, your husband is sick. Your kids are still young. Can I make you a dinner? Please let me make you a dinner. And I go to her, son, what are you talking about? I have to make you a dinner. Are you kidding me? She goes, no, no, no. I said, you cannot make it. She goes, don't worry. I'm not going to make you a dinner. My daughter Nisa would make it. I said, no, 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 no. Thank you so much, Sarah. I can't. I have to make it. Let me make you a dinner, I told her. She goes, no, we okay. You take care of your husband. You take care of your kids. You take care of yourself. This is a person. And then one day she calls me. She goes, I organized Shira Shirim, a group of 40 ladies to say Friday night, it's a big zechut, big segula for a full shalema for your husband. She is sick herself, mind you. She's organizing it for my husband. And the daughter said something interesting. She goes, at the husband, she goes, when my mother, this past Friday, Shabbos, she goes, I always thought if the time comes for my mom to leave, she goes, I always thought she's going to leave on Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, tzaddikim and tzaddikot leave. And she goes, this past Shabbos that she lived, she kept asking us, what time is it? She kept asking us, what time is it? And we told mom what time it is. And we said, Ma, why you keep asking what time it is? Is there a reason? She goes, she never told us a reason. But she left this world, she says, Motzei Shabbos. She goes, as if she didn't want to ruin the Shabbos mood for all of us. Because we were all there with her. She wanted to spend the last Shabbos with all her kids, not to violate Shabbos. And she returned her holy soul back to her Creator. Unbelievable. Ladies, one thing I learned from my neighbor Sarah, she would care about everybody's pain. She would take like her pain. She would cry for somebody else as if it was her own pain. That's called being sensitivity, and being considerate. And if she saw somebody needed help, she would be the first one to go and offer help. This is a true Eshes Chayil. This is a woman of valor. This is a true Eshes Chayil that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us. She was like a soldier in the house. She was I cannot even believe that I will be able to come back to my block and look at the door and there is nobody there. I cannot call. I could say, hi, how are you? She would call me many times. Even from the hospital when she came in, she's calling me. She says, how are you doing? How is your husband feeling? How are the kids doing? Is everything okay? Anything I could do for you? I'm like, I have to do for you. Let me, please allow it. Let me make you a Jew, something, please. Her daughters told me, Esther, we appreciate the kind gesture, but we can't because her doctor said she's immunocompromised and she cannot have any juices from anybody. So only we, the kids, we make her juices and we make her whatever she wants. But please don't feel bad that you cannot help her. She's not allowed. Okay. Respectful. Good enough. I want to tell you, when I went to the wedding of my cousin yesterday evening, and I saw the simcha, the chatan was crying, and while he's standing and about to walk down the kala, he kept talking to Hashem and saying, "Thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem, thank you, Hashem." And you could see the words coming out from his lips. The father was crying. The mother said, I was holding myself because I didn't want my makeup to ruin my face. The girl was crying. I said, this is the most beautiful, spiritual, emotional chuppah I've been at. And I saw the Khatan today. I said, I enjoyed the wedding so much. And I saw how close you are to Hashem and how you were able to think of Hashem at that moment and thank Hashem while you are in your, in the aisle, walking down the chuppah with your new wife. You're thinking of Hashem and thanking Him. It's incredible. And when I told the father, I said, I was so touched. I was seeing you, how you were hugging your son and blessing him, how you were crying. I said, I was crying. And he was uncomfortable when I said that. He goes, was it not comfortable, not a good scene that the father of Khatan? I said, absolutely not. I said, everybody should cry like you did. I said, who is going to be zoche to walk down the chuppah, their son, at early age, and who will not? How many people in Israel lost their sons as soldiers fighting for the regular, basic freedom of life? Those mothers never walked their sons down in the chuppah. Those fathers. Every day you see on a Facebook, 19-year-old, Lebanon, this mind-boggling. Somebody put on the Refuah Shalema chat of my husband, a short video clip of a Jewish man who wants to be a congressman. Mishuga, mamash mishuga. Because he says, if I'm going to be in the Congress, he says that he is not going to pass the bill to sell from America, U.S. military, any bombs or anything to Israel to, so to speak, genocide of Gaza and Lebanon. I said, are you kidding me? And he goes to mosque and reads Quran and he says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, sick. We live in the sick time with the sick people around us. Remember one thing. You are born Jewish, you will die Jewish, and you will answer as a Jewish person, no matter who you are and what political background you have. And you have to stick up for who you are and your people. You have to stick up. When Hashem puts you in a political scene, an arena, wherever you are, even if you're not in politics, none of us listening most likely are. You have to understand, Hashem put you in this position to wake up and smell the roses. And stick up. There was a very wealthy man, Mr. Wolf. He lived in 5 towns. He was a probably, I don't know. If I say multimillionaire, it's for sure. But if I say billionaire, it's also for sure. Probably. I don't know. I didn't count his money. But he used his wealth. I remember reading in paper a few years ago, he passed away. I remember the papers were flooded with chespedim about him. And he said, he came from Russia. He and his brother came from Russia as a kids. And his parents wanted them to go to yeshiva. They went. This brother, Mr. Wolf, he was more modern, and he went to business. He didn't want to stay in college, but his brother went and he was learning in college full time. Okay. So he said when he built wealth and he became a big businessman, he was a supporter, like you wouldn't believe it. He said, Hashem gives us wealth that we should be able to use it for Hashem's children. He would use it for his own children, for his grandchildren, and for any Jew that reached out to him. Do you know he was the main supporter for Toldot.ru, the Russian-speaking, the largest website and organization in Israel? Rabbis, they said he was our main supporter. He would rabbis from Israel, they would come here to New York for having a second opinion or first opinion to see big doctors. He would pay for their tickets and he would ask them to come to his house. And when they came, he would get, I guess at that time, Uber or car service or whatever. And he would send them to Manhattan to the top specialists. And he would pay for those visits. And he would say, I'm going to see you there. I'm going to come with the train. I couldn't understand it. Don't mind me. Why would you want to go with the train? He said, the money Hashem gave me is not mine to waste left and right for me to ride on an Uber. But for this patient, I must. My money I have to spend. This is Hashem's child. And when his grandson said in the paper, Grandpa, look at my tie. And he would show his tie. He would say, I bought it for, let's say, $5. He would say, goodbye, smart kid. You know how to buy a good, beautiful piece for a good price. I was like, wow. When he would give a gift, he would give he says, at least for $20 and up. But when he would spend on himself, he said he had a yacht, a big ship, big, whatever. And he said he would meet with the government officials. He would impress them, make a spread, make like a restaurant type of the meal. And he would give them a tour, using his yacht and ship. And he said he would ask them after the conversation, he would impress them, he's a wealthy man, and he would ask them that he would like them to help to send humanitarian help to Israel, to send them military help to Israel. And that's how he used his wealth, to impress the politicians and use it to help his own people and his own countrymen. That's the right thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Whatever gift Hashem gave you, use it for yourself, for your children, for your family, for others. Because Hashem is going to ask, what did you do with the gift you got? We just finished Shavuot. Shavuot's story is very well known. There was a very wealthy man. Remind me? The one at Shani, remind me. I went blank. Whose wife was Naomi. No, מה פתאום? מה פתאום? Elimelech? Okay, so Elimelech, forgive me. So I went long. So Elimelech was a very, very wealthy man. And he was married to his wife, Naomi. He had 2 sons. His 2 sons, he was so wealthy. There was a time of famine in Israel, and they were starving, literally. And they would come to him, and they would ask, please, Elimelech, can you please give us food, give us money, give us something to buy with? We have nothing. And he would give every day, every single day, from morning to night, every day he would give them food and money. Until one day, he says, enough. How much can I give to Klal Yisrael? I'm not going to be left with anything for myself. So you know what? We're going to leave Israel in the middle of the night where nobody will see us and nobody will know where we are going. This way, I'm sick and tired. I'm tired of supporting everybody. It's too much. And he leaves with his wife, Naomi, and his two sons. And they go to Moab. Yeah, to Moab. They go to Moab. And don't use that. And they go to Moab. And they settle there. And then he says, and Moab was a place of a Goyish place, and there weren't any Jewish people around. And he says to his sons, huh, my dear sons, now that you are in Moab, you need to go and find yourself wives. You need to get married to somebody from here. They find girls, Ruth and Orpah. So Hashem, it says that in Shemayim there was an uproar. And they said, we gave wealth to Elimelech, not to use it for himself only. I know usually when we are wealthy, it's hard to give. Just natural. It's just hard to give. That's what we're commanded to give. Just like it's hard to do kibbut av va'em. That's what we're commanded to do kibbut av va'em. If it was natural and easy, I don't know if Hashem would do it. But because it's hard, Hashem says, you have to do it. You have to do it. And we have to listen to Hashem. So there was an uproar in Shemayim, and the Zera was put down and written. And unfortunately, he and his two sons have to die. And that's what happens. He and his two sons, they die. And Orpah says, the daughter-in-law, oh, to her mother-in-law, my dear mother-in-law, nice to meet you, nice spending time with you and your family. I'm going back home. Bye. She leaves her at a hard time, difficult moment. Ruth, on the other hand, she says, no, I'm here with you, thick or thin. It's hard for you. I'll help you as much as I can. Wherever you go, I'll go. You follow your God, whichever way you go, I'll follow your God. And it says, Naomi, from the influential woman that she was, from a wife that was married to a rich man, she lost her husband, she became a widow. She lost her two sons, she became alone again without any family. And she became poor. Because her husband is the one who had a business and was making money. She was not making money. She was only a mommy, a wife. So from being married to a man who had business and money and wealth, she became a poor person. And she said to her daughter-in-laws, I have nothing to give you. Go back to where you came from. Orpah went back. Ruth said, no, I'm staying with you. No matter how hard it is for you, I'm staying here and I will be there for you. And because of her extraordinary commitment to the Jewish woman, Naomi, her mother-in-law, even though there was no chance, she's already older woman. She's not going to give birth to another, son or whatever. I mean, come on. She merited to be a great grandmother of David HaMelech and Moshiach, whom we're waiting all and davening for. She is the one. How did she marry this? How can we marry this? How can we give this merit to our children and grandchildren? By being committed to Torah. By being committed to God sincerely and with authenticity. When we do what Hashem wants, with a pure heart, like Sarah, Shekhinah, the neighbor did? Will we commit to God like Ruth Moaviyah did? Remember, no matter how old you are, it says Ruth was 40. Ruth was 40. And Boaz, it says that he was 80. You would think, how 80-year-old can have live sperm? But Hashem made her to conceive from one night. And from that genealogy, David HaMelech came out. I was last week before Shavuot at Jackie Biton's shiur, and she mentioned this story, and she added some personal story. She said that she was somewhere, and there was this young woman who was saying how she's trying to get invited for Shabbos to somebody's house, and she cannot find by whom to eat her meal. And she overheard Jackie Biton, and she looks over her shoulder and she says, "I'm so sorry. I just happened to overhear that you're looking for a meal to stay by for Shabbos. Why don't you come to our house for Shabbos?" She says to her. And she goes, she came for both meals, Friday night and Shabbos lunch, every Shabbos for 7 weeks straight. And she goes, and after that, she goes, one day, and she was always on the phone, and she was always calling me and asking me, and she was just very emotional and needy. And she was asking me, to talk to me and take my time, which is fine. And she goes, one day, one of my kids in the middle of the night woke up and asked me, "Mommy, can you get me water from downstairs?" She goes, I came downstairs. It was 3 a.m. to get water for my child. And she goes, and I see my father. She goes, her father, when he was still alive. She says, my father was sitting on a couch and talking on the phone 3 a.m. She says, I told my father, Dad, it's 3 a.m. Who are you talking to? And he goes, so who are you talking to, Dad? Remember that girl, that guest that you invited to your house for 7 weeks straight? She goes, yeah. And he goes, that's the girl I'm talking to on the phone. He goes, I've been on the phone with her every night for like 5 hours straight. She goes, Dad, but you need to go to sleep. You need to get your rest. You need to get your strength back. It's okay, daughter. She needs help. Okay? Fast forward. One day, unfortunately, Jackie Bitton loses her father, loses her dad. And she says, I knew that girl knew about my father probably more than anybody in the world because she constantly spent time with him, being on the phone late at night, 4 hours a day. Are you kidding me? She goes, I am never I was never on the phone with my father for more than a few minutes or whatever, but 5 hours a day? She goes, I was looking to see if she's here at the hardest time of my life at the Levaya, at the funeral. Because I was looking for her. I wanted to talk to her, to ask her about my father. Maybe she had something to say. She wasn't there. She goes, she wasn't there. So I said, okay, maybe she'll come to pay a Shiva call. She goes, all the Shiva days pass. She never showed up. She goes, a week passes, a month passes, even 8 months pass. 8 months pass. This girl, she never called to say, I'm sorry, I heard sad news about your father. She never called to offer the word of comfort. And one day she calls me and she goes, Jackie, hi, how are you? She goes, hi. She goes, We haven't spoken for so long. She goes, can you give me your best Shabbos Moroccan fish recipe? She goes, sure. So she says, I stopped. I gave her the recipe. She goes, you saute the onions, a lot of garlic, a lot of lemon, peppers, tomato paste, and I put a little schloch. So I told her everything. She goes, but wait a minute, before you ask me for a fish recipe, don't you think you need to say something to me? She goes, yeah, I know. You lost your father. I heard. And she goes, I didn't want to call you because you see, Jackie, you are the world-known speaker. And I didn't want to catch you in a blah mood or in a bad mood. I wanted to have your image in my mind that you are that inspirational, that powerhouse, world-known speaker. And she asked me for some other recipes, she goes, I said, I'll forward you the recipes. But she goes, after I hung up the phone, I said to myself, she says, you missed the boat. She goes, I said to myself, you missed the boat. You missed the whole idea of being a good Jew. You don't leave a person when somebody is not well or somebody died because you don't want to see them in a blah mood. You have to be there for other people. You have to be there when it's hard moment, difficult moment. Call them if you cannot go. Speak to them, give them support, comfort. Don't be like Orpa. My mother-in-law, Naomi, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. Pleasure being in this house for this amount of time. Now that there is no man, there is no wealth. Goodbye. Nice to meet you. We don't do that. We have to be like Ruth. We have to be there for other people. Because you know what? When you are there for other people, the world is round. Hashem will make it that when you need help, when your family needs help, and we all need help, always, at any given time, when your grandchildren will need help, Hashem will bring that help your way. What goes around comes around. Midah keneged midah. Measure for measure. We have to be sensitive to others. This is what we have to learn from these stories. And we have to know. I went to Rabbi Joey Haber's class, also before Shabbat. And he said, one day he went to the shul a while ago, long time ago. And he says, and he came home and he forgot his 10-year-old son in shul. He forgot. He comes home. He's talking to his wife at some point, and then his daughter says, Abba, do you know that you forgot our 10-year-old brother in shul? And he says, oh my gosh, I forgot to bring him back home. And it's like 45-minute walk, he says, to the shul. He goes, and my neighbor is a Chatzala guy. He goes, and what do you think my wife said? He says, what do you think you would say if your husband said, I forgot our 10-year-old in shul, 45 minutes away, walking? I said to myself, oh my God, I would probably be so mad at my husband. I personally, I'm sorry, Hashem should forgive me. But you know what my wife said? He said, oh, Joey, if you want, I could go and pick him up. Said, oh, it's okay. I'll keep you company. We'll walk together. Imagine. But guess what? As soon as they were about to come out the door to go to pick up the 10-year-old, they knock on the door. The Chatzala man walked him, realizing that he was forgotten by his Abba. He goes, and he goes, and I'm sincere, and I say the truth. And I said in my later on shurim and speeches or whatever, this is what happened. I forgot. I'm a human being. I'm not an angel. He goes, I thought I'm going to be bombarded by emails from all corners of the world saying, how can you preach us? And we should listen to you? You forgot your kid in the shul? And instead, he goes, I got tons of emails saying, I also forgot one time my son in the shul, 10-year-old. And somebody else said, I also forgot my son once in a mall. Hashem Yishmor. I forgot one time my son in the on a bus or in my car. Hashem Yishmor. So which means it could happen to anybody. Anybody. We cannot judge. But instead, we have to be human. And we have to accept our human side. And not attack, not judge, but instead say, this person is honest. I'll never forget the example of there was a man who came to a big rabbi and he said, I want to just give you like dafka in spite of it's Yom Kippur and I'm going to eat a sandwich of like a not kosher sandwich in front of you just to make you upset. A Jewish guy comes to the rabbi and acts like this. And the rabbi said, Hashem, your children are so honest. He told him, how dare you on Yom Kippur to eat? How dare you to eat something not kosher? But instead, Hashem, your kids are so honest. So we have to look at how to be done l'kav zchus, judge others favorably. I'm going to share with you a story that I learned from Living Amunah on a Parsha by Rabbi David Ashir. This week is the Parsha of the week is Nasso. And we learn about Birkas Kohanim. Yesterday at the wedding of my cousin, Rabbi Nisanyan, who officiated the wedding at the chuppah, he said, beautiful, he goes, and my cousin is married to a Kohen. She goes, Rabbi Nisanyan says to her son, this is the best week to choose to get married to because you are the Kohen, and this is the parsha we're talking about Birkas Kohanim. Parshas Nasso contains the Birkas Kohanim, which begins with the words, Yivarechacha Hashem, may the Lord bless you. Hashem should bless a person monetarily. This is what it applies to. V'yishmerecha, and watch over you. And he should guard the wealth from being taken by thieves. Rashi there, Bamidbar, writes that a human being can give a gift, but cannot ensure that the recipient will be able to hold on to it, that gift, and enjoy it. But Hu hanoten, Hu hashomer. He, Hashem, is the giver, and he is the protector. A man who deals in jewelry, we'll call him Avigdor, told me that once a week he goes to a certain location to sell his merchandise. Once a day, as he was exiting his car, he was stopped by a police officer. Does this vehicle belong to you? The officer asked. Yes, Avigdor replied. Is everything okay? Last week at this time, the officer said, We stopped a car full of people. When we started questioning them, they pulled away. We chased them and got into a shootout. One was killed, and we arrested the rest. Shani. They confessed that they were waiting to ambush you and steal your merchandise. You are very lucky. The police tell this guy who's handling, you know, the merchandise. Last week, Avigdor told me, I had no idea that anyone was trying to harm me. I traveled to I traveled to sell my jewelry as usual. I came home as usual, and I would never have known how much danger I was in if the officer had not told me. Hashem was protecting him. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Hashem blessed him, and he protected him. This morning, I saw also disturbing news in one of the chats from Brooklyn that a beautiful young lady, Hazel, 23-year-old, and I saw it on Facebook afterwards, Chabad. She was newlywed. She was pregnant, was about to give birth, went to have a baby. She had bleeding opened up, and she was rushed to the hospital. The doctors did emergency C-section. They took the baby boy out, and unfortunately, they could not save her. She passed away. She comes from a prominent rabbinical family, prominent. And after I saw her face on a Facebook, I said, "Wow, gorgeous, stunning, in her color veil." And I came over to my husband. I said, "Look at the news. Hashem is showing us." I had my first child with emergency C-section. Hashem is showing us, I told my husband, that every child who is born is a miracle. Every labor that the woman goes through is a miracle, and she stays alive. Because look at this. A young girl, 23-year-old, passed away because of uncontrollable bleeding during the birth. It's unbelievable. A scary thought. So this is exactly what this is teaching us, this bracha of Kohanim. That Hashem blessed him. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Hashem blessed him and he protected him. We need siyata d'shmaya. The bracha continues. Ya'er Hashem panav elecha. May the Lord cause his countenance to shine to you. The Midrash Haggadah explains, Be'or panei melech chayim, Mishlei. In the light of the king's countenance is life. This is a blessing for life. And it continues. Vayasem lecha shalom, and grant you peace. Hashem will protect your life from all harm. We have to understand what the blessing means. Hashem is the Shomer Yisrael, the guardian of Israel. The pasuk says in Tehillim 121:7, Hashem yishmorcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will guard your soul. Hashem is the one who guards our lives. We're very fragile, and many dangers lurk all about. But fortunately, we have Hashem protecting us. One day, my daughter comes from school and she says, "Mommy, do you know what happened to my friend in the lunchroom?" I said, "What happened to your friend in the lunchroom?" She goes, "We were served soup, hot soup, and another schoolmate, classmate, by mistake bumped into her and spilled hot soup on her, and it burned her stomach, her legs. She was rushed to get help, and we were told that it was a bad burn. And we were all standing in line with our bowl to get a soup." After I heard this, I said to myself, Hashem is watching our kids in school too. Just because they're in school doesn't mean that they're safe. The hot soup in the lunchroom could spill, God forbid, with the wrong move of another classmate. So Hashem, thank you for watching all my kids. Thank you that they come home alive and healthy and everything is okay. And we don't even realize how much chesed you do for us every second. Hashem, thank you. A rabbi who teaches in Brooklyn told me they had to attend the wedding of one of his former students in Toronto on Thursday evening. After the wedding, he drove to Buffalo to catch a flight to New York to be able to teach his Friday morning class. He did not sleep the entire night, but he made it to class on time. When school ended at noon, he headed back home to Far Rockaway. As he was driving down the highway at about 60 miles an hour, his sleep deprivation caught up with him and he dozed off at the wheel. Suddenly, a loud bang startled him awake. A bird struck the windshield and saved his life. He had been driving that same route from Brooklyn to Far Rockaway 6 days a week for over 30 years. And not once did a bird ever smash into his car. The one time he dozed off was exactly when the bird hit the windshield and woke him up. That was the Shomer Yisrael, the guardian of Israel, guarding his life. We are so lucky to have the Shomer Yisrael guarding our lives. Hashem saves people all the time. We only find out about a minuscule number of incidents. We must constantly thank Hashem for his protection and go through our days feeling secure. As long as a person is supposed to save life, is supposed to have life, Hashem will be guarding it. I took it very hard when my Sarah neighbor passed away. And I was crying, I posted in the chat what I remember of her. And my other neighbor's daughter from Israel, Naomi, listen up. She left me a voicemail and text message on my WhatsApp. She says, Esther, you're taking it too hard. She goes, you have to understand, the sickness is nothing in comparison to Hashem. Hashem is stronger than sickness. Hashem is above the sickness. And Hashem has everybody a time allotted out. And Hashem knows when the person's time is up. And Hashem takes people when the time is up. It was just our time, she said to me. And after I heard this, it calmed me down a little bit. And I said to myself, I will make a commitment by Zera Hashem Li Neder. From today on, because of my neighbors passing so early, so young, 64, not even. And because of this pure soul, Razel, passing at 23, that child will never know his mother. He was just born. I don't know how long he had his mother. I said, because she died during the childbirth, I said, I have to make sure that I will build every child of mine and I will fill every day of my life as if, God forbid, this is my last day. So this morning, before I took the kids to school, I said, Devorah, I just want to tell you that I love you. I want to wish you the greatest day possible to have. But Sheva, I love you. David, I love you. And with that, I want you to go to school. They looked at me like I fell off the moon. But it's okay. It's okay. Because that love that we give and instill, because you know what? We forget how to live in the moment. Jackie Piton, I'll stop for a second. I will tell you what Jackie Piton said. It just reminded me. Jackie Piton mentioned a beautiful story. Somebody sent to her a video, and she said, that person who sent it to her, she said, I needed a box of tissues watching this video. I think you, Jackie, would need 5 boxes of tissues. A story goes about 80-year-old woman who looks in the mirror and she says, "Oh my God, I have wrinkles here, God forbid. I have wrinkles there, God forbid." The 80-year-old says to herself. And she looks at her arms and she goes, "Oh my God, look at my flaps. They're like so wrinkly and everything." And all of a sudden, as if there is a transformation, like in the movie, she sees herself. She is 35 years old. And she sees looking beautiful, young, without any wrinkles, and healthy, no health issues. She goes, this 80-year-old was complaining that every part of her body hurts. And now she's in the body of her 35-year-old herself, without a crumb of pain, without any health issues. And she says, and she looks in the mirror, she goes, "What happened to me?" She looks at her arm, she goes, "I don't see my flaps anymore. I see strong muscles. What happened to me?" And she sees herself driving, and she has to drive the kids to school. And first she screams, "Everybody to the car, quick, 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 we're late. We have to be on time to school." She goes, "Oh, my beautiful children, don't rush. It's okay. I love you. We're going to get to this school just in a few minutes. I love you. I enjoy the noise you make. Oh my God, get into the car. Mommy will drive you to school." And she goes, every minute she comes home and she sees her husband and there's a dinner to be made. Everything she went through, instead of blowing up, "Oh my God, we're late, let's go." No, I love it. I absolutely adore it. Let's take the moment. Let's sink it in. Let it sink in. And she says, how would you feel at 35, knowing that at 80, you would be, hopefully not, all wrinkly, hopefully not, hopefully still no wrinkles. You might be in pain, hopefully not. How would you feel? You are missing the moment. You are missing the boat. I'll tell you, when I lived back in Bukhara, as a nursing student, I had my internship in the neurology unit in one of the major city hospitals where we lived. And the head of the neurology department was a gorgeous, beautiful Uzbek woman, stunning doctor. And my mother, I remember, she used to tell me, "You see this woman? She got married late. She had 2 kids. She got married like at 40. She got married, she had 2 children." She goes, because she became older, she got married to the man who was in charge of the bazaar, shuk, a marketplace. This man who worked in the marketplace, he would go from person to person and collect 10 kopecks, 15 kopecks, whatever it was in that time, 30 years ago. And he would collect some kind of a tax, maybe, I don't know. People from villages that would come, they would sell from the farm, they would sell farm fresh produce. He would collect a little tax from them. And this woman, he was a simple guy. I remember seeing him as a kid, as a teenager. And this woman who married him, she was a stunning, when I say stunning, it's stunning, smart, gorgeous, intelligent, a doctor, for God's sake, the head of neurology department of the hospital. She was always wearing high heels like this. She was a model of the floor, dressed to the chic, gorgeous. And I'll never forget how early in the morning, 6 in the morning, I would go, I was maybe 14, 15-year-old, would go with my mom to do shopping together for food, groceries. And this woman, this doctor, would pass through the market, gorgeously dressed, gorgeous makeup, hair done, gorgeous, high heels like this. And I would be looking at her like, with the jaw dropped. Wow, stunning. And she would say hi to her husband, who was dressed simple. He was clean, but simple. He was the market, grocery market, tax collector. And you would think, they are not a match. They're not a pair. But my mother, I remember, Allah Shalom, she said, when your time ticks and your time passes, you don't look that you're a doctor anymore. You get married because you want to build a family. You get married because you want to bring children into this world. You get married because you want not to be alone. The whole idea of us, Jewish ladies, is to know what is our role in life. And our role in life, Arizal says that the women were not supposed to be even born. The only reason we are born into this world is to help our husbands to do a tikkun. How can we help our husbands to do a tikkun? Because he cannot do it without us. We have to set our priorities straight. But we might say, I'm sorry, but I'm also a human being. I also have my values. I also have self-esteem and self-confidence and self-value. I don't want to marry to just anybody, just for the sake of getting married. It's not fair. Everything I invested into myself, you're 100% correct. But I'll give you one small advice. One. This is the advice I got in my time from a Rebbetzin, from Rebbetzin Chani Feigenbaum. She said, choose the best from what's available on the market. Not from what you want, because you may not get what you want. Ask every married woman. Every, when I say every, I mean every. Did she get what she wants? 99%. I'm giving you 1% to be wrong. 99.9, they will tell you they did not get what they want. They got what Hashem saw fit. They got what Hashem wanted, but not what they wanted. They thought that's what they wanted. They thought this is who they want. But once they get married and get to know the person a little better, they said to themselves, oh my boy, oh goodness, who did they marry? But then they make the best out of it. That's it. Do I say settle? No. But I will repeat that line, get the best from what's available on the market. That's my advice to you. That's it. Because that's what helped me to make the choice I made in my time. And you know what? I don't know what's better, to be single longer or to be married and deal with the different problems and issues. But you know what? Every marriage has problems and issues. Every marriage has challenges. That's why we're here. Marriage is a big school of molding our midos. Big school. And this is what we're here for. At the end of Pashas Nasso, we read about, didn't finish the story. The 80-year-old woman, she says, I'll go back. And when she went back into her back, so to speak, body of 8-year-old. So the message of the video was basically, whatever stage you are at, embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace yourself. Embrace your life. Embrace your youth. And if you're older, embrace your older age. And if you're young, you embrace your youth. And if you make money, embrace the ability to make money. And if you're not making money, embrace the ability of being supported by others. Whatever that is, embrace it. Embrace it and appreciate every moment you are in, because it's not coming back. And when you look back, you're going to say to yourself, I can't believe I missed it. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate it. Appreciate. Like at the end of Parshas Nasso, we read about the inauguration offerings of Nisim. The Mefarshim ask, why the Torah repeats the same donations over and over for each Nasi, head of the tribe, rather than just writing once that all the Nisim brought the same korban. Ramban, with the N, answers that Hashem wanted to give honor to each Nasi for his efforts. Therefore, he inscribed the name of each Nasi, the day he brought his korban, and what his korban consisted of, thereby honoring each of them individually. When I saw this, I said to myself, wow, you know what lesson we learned? That every time somebody does something for you, please write a thank you note. Please say thank you. Because this is what we learned from Nasso. That whatever this korban they brought, it says that it was recorded the day he brought his korban, the Nasi, what his korban consisted of, and honoring them individually. Wow. Although we're supposed to flee from honor, we're also supposed to give honor. When we give the opportunity to compliment or praise someone, we should utilize it. I'm proud of every one of you who came today to the class to listen to us and to support us. And for the sponsors of our class, Hashem bless you at Blidai. I'm so grateful. It is very important for a person to have self-esteem. Many people harbor feelings of inferiority, which cause them to be depressed. They see friends or family members achieving great things in their lives and are left feeling worthless, with no accomplishments to show for themselves. However, any day in which a person spends time praying, learning, and doing mitzvahs is a very successful day. These deeds are significant accomplishments in the eyes of the only one who matters, Hashem. People don't even realize how much they accomplish through their everyday activities and through their contact with other people. No one should ever feel worthless. You are a gem. You, yes, listening to me. The whole world was created just for you. The Gemara in the Reuven says on the Pasuk, Kefelach harimon rakotech, Shir HaShirim, that afilu reikonim sheboch mleim mitzvot korimon. Even people who do not fully observe Torah and mitzvot are filled with mitzvot, many of which they do not even realize they're doing. Listen to the story. 120 years ago, Irving passed away in a tragic manner at age 55. Irving led a very hard life. From a young age, he felt overshadowed by his older brother and was unable to make his own mark. He was married for less than a year and did not have children. He never held a steady job and lived with his parents until he passed away. He was generally depressed and felt he had no value. At his funeral, every speaker alluded to the fact that had he applied himself more, he could have made something of himself. Recently, Bernie noticed a listing on a webpage for a man with an unusual surname, the same as Irving's. Bernie reached out to him and asked if he was by any chance related to Irving. Yes, he was my great uncle, but he passed away 22 years ago. Bernie said he had always wanted to thank Irving for what he had done for his father, but was never able to locate him. I'll tell you the story instead, he said to Irving's great nephew. My father always told us how he owed his life to Irving. Bernie began. He would always talk about him. When they were younger in college, they both tried out for the soccer team. Irving was one of the best players, while my father was just okay. My father asked Irving what he thought of his soccer abilities. Irving replied, "You are about 90%. Very good." My father was uplifted by that compliment. He loved soccer, but didn't think he was any good at the sport. Ultimately, my father didn't make the team, but Irving kept encouraging him. You have talent, he insisted. Keep trying. You could always be a coach if you don't end up making it as a player. My father took those words to heart and went on to play semi-pro and then to coach semi-pro. He bought a pro team and was inducted into 2 soccer halls of fame. He earned a living from soccer and raised an upstanding family. And he credits everything to your great uncle's words of encouragement. Although my father was not religious, his children are now Ba'alei Tshuva. They're also beneficiaries of your great uncle's words of inspiration. And none of the speakers at Irving's funeral knew that story. In fact, Irving himself never knew that story. People should never feel worthless. They have no idea whom they impact and how. Every mitzvah we do is measurable. The mitzvahs are available for anyone to do and are the true determinant of success in this world. Unbelievable. Not unbelievable? Unbelievable. I learned an unbelievable story in a book by Baruch Lev called There Is No Such a Thing as Coincidence, and other stories of divine providence. The story is told about a young couple who had a child. And 2 days after the child was born, the son was born, the hospital pediatrician came to report a minor, quote unquote, problem. Your newborn, he said, suffers from poor muscle tone. He said, that is, his muscles are not fully developed. And we'll have to look into it further. He says, my wife and I were not too concerned on hearing this because we had been told something similar about our older daughter. And Baruch Hashem, she had developed completely normal. We were under the impression that it was a fairly common problem that corrected itself in time. But we were mistaken. As the months passed and our baby grew, his muscular control appeared to be growing worse. He could not support himself at all and was first able to hold up his head at an age when most babies begin to sit up. In addition, his joints were extraordinarily flexible, and his arms and legs could be turned in directions that normally are impossible. Still, we were not too alarmed about it. The doctors at the local mother and child clinic, however, did a good job of frightening us by declaring that this slow motor development together with the joint problems indicated mental retardation. Our pediatrician assured us that the poor muscle tone and loose joints were not related. The muscle condition required treatment but the loose joints were not a serious problem. In any case, it had been the letter that had frightened the clinic doctors into an incorrect diagnosis. Since our baby was a happy and alert child, followed everything with his eyes, played with his toys, and showed an ability to concentrate, it was clear to us that he had no mental problem, but only a muscular one. We would have been content to wait and see how things developed, if not for our caregiver's neighbor's baby. Our baby went to daycare every day, and the caregiver's neighbor noticed that our child had the same difficulty as her own child, who until today, he's in his teens, is unable to sit up without being strapped to a wheelchair for support. When she saw our baby, she called us immediately and urged to take him for physical therapy without delay. She insisted that early intervention was essential. Our son was 6 months old. Since our pediatrician agreed with the neighbor's recommendation, we called the Child Development Institute of our health fund to make an appointment, which they were ready to give us in another 6 months. It was in Israel. We knew we were losing precious time. At 6 months of age, much more could be done than at 1 year. With the help of our pediatrician, we were given an appointment for an evaluation in another 2 months. Specialists told us the name of our son's condition is hypotonia, meaning lax muscles. His reflexes were also slow. This is caused by some sort of short circuit in the brain, whereby impulses to the muscles are interrupted. Although there is no impairment of either the child's muscles or his mental faculties, the only course of treatment possible is exercise and physical therapy. The waiting list for physical therapy was very long. Private treatment was expensive. We were in a quandary, for we were told over and over again not to waste any time in beginning therapy. At such a time, the only thing to do is ask the opinion of someone steeped in Torah. We went to our Rebbe, Shlita, to ask his advice. Go to the righteous one to ask. I carefully wrote out a request to present to the Rebbe. My little son, 8 months old, suffers from lax muscles, hypotonia. The doctors are of the opinion that we must start physical therapy right away. The sooner the better. They say that every passing day increases the risks for the future. It's already late, but we cannot get an early appointment at our clinic. What should we do? The Rebbe received me graciously. He read what I had written with great care. Then, after a brief moment, he answered, "Wait 2 more months." He stretched out his hand for a farewell handshake and nodded his head benevolently. Basically, the rabbi says, wait for 2 months. I hesitated to leave. I wanted to be absolutely sure. And then should we try the treatment at the health fund clinic or look for a private treatment, I asked. The Rebbe was quiet for a moment. And then he said, by then you'll see. I left the Rebbe's room and someone else entered. Whole worlds passed through that room, one after another. At home, the whole family had been saying Tehillim and waiting to hear what the Rebbe had said. I told them firmly and unequivocally, we're not to do anything for 2 months. No physiotherapy without instructions from the Rebbe. I felt as though we were the tranquil eye in the midst of the rolling storm. Friends, acquaintances, physicians, and the caregiver's neighbor were amazed. They told us repeatedly that immediate treatment was necessary and that we were taking a great risk in waiting. We shouldn't even wait for our appointment at the clinic, but engage a private therapist. A shock in more ways than one. Emunas Chachamim is not easy to carry out, but we were determined to follow the advice of our Rebbe. No matter what anyone else said, we maintained our normal schedules. 2 weeks later, I had spoken to the Rebbe. We were on our way to take the baby to his caregiver. The stairs to her house were long, steep, and narrow, and she lived on the 3rd floor. To save time, I picked up the stroller with the baby strapped into it and started up the stairs. To this day, I have no idea what happened, how it happened. But halfway up, my flexible, lax-muscled son suddenly slipped and jumped out of straps and started rolling down the stairs. For a second or two, I stood there with the empty stroller in my arms. As quickly as I could, I put it down on the landing so it could not roll down on top of the baby. I heard him bumping against each step as he fell. When I finally reached him, he was lying inert at the bottom of the staircase, bruised and swollen. I checked to see that he was breathing. Then I stroked him gently and spoke to him. A gigantic weight lifted off me when he started to cry. Picking him up carefully, I took him outside, and my wife flagged a taxi to take us to the nearest emergency room. In fear and trembling, I prayed, Ribono Shel Olam, this child has suffered so much. Please have mercy on him. We were admitted immediately, and the medical staff conducted an extensive examination with all kinds of tests. Amazingly, they found no fractures or internal bleeding, but said that he had a severe concussion. A full CAT scan showed that everything was normal. I asked the neurologist hesitantly if there was any sign of brain damage on the scan. The doctor checked again, studied it carefully, and answered decisively that the brain was in perfect shape. The neurologist listened with great interest to our account of the baby's medical history. Then he checked the baby's reflexes. We stood aside, ready to bear whatever Hashem has decreed for us. To our mutual astonishment, he found the reflexes responding normally. After several hours of observation, it was clear that all was well, and we were sent home with a great gift we had received from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. From that day on, our baby began to turn over in his crib. Our son's muscles grew stronger from day to day. We saw it with our own eyes. His strange twisting stopped completely, and as if in a dream, we watched his quick, astonishing progress. We accepted this improvement quietly, placing our full trust in Hashem. By the end of the week, the baby was able to get up on his hands and knees and rock back and forth. The following week, he began to crawl, and quickly. Soon he was sitting up by himself. It was as if he wanted to catch up on everything at once. With the passing weeks, a dramatic change came over our son's life and ours. It dawned on us that the short circuit in his brain between the message center and his muscles must have been restored. The concussion was a trauma that had turned into a blessing. We had not done a thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had fixed the short circuit. Those days were an emotional time of spiritual uplift. We clearly saw Hashem's hand with our own eyes. Every stage in our son's development, every step he takes is accompanied by great excitement. And our immense thanksgiving cannot be expressed in words alone. Now that our son is 3 and a healthy, charming child, we recognize the enormity of the miracle that happened to us. And we raise a beacon of thanks to Hashem for it. We can only hope to tell people of Hashem's greatness and glory in our own small way by publicizing it as widely as possible. The immense reward for pure trust in Hashem and His tzaddikim. It was an unbelievable story. Unbelievable. It touched me so much that I have to share it. And taking just a couple of minutes longer to actually go over with you a short Zera Shimshon on Nasso with you. B'ezrat Hashem, all the segula of Zera Shimshon be fulfilled upon you. And all of us be blessed with health, wealth, briyut, shleima, health and wealth and honor, and children around the table like olive shoots. The expansion of the Truma obligation. Any portion of that which is holy that is brought to the Kohen shall be his. A person's holy gifts for the Kohen shall be his. He has the right to decide which Kohen he wants to give them to. What he gives to the Kohen shall be his. The Zera Shimshon points out that the words Lo Yehyeh, it shall be his, are repeated 3 times in these 2 psukim. Why is this necessary? In the Torah, every letter is accounted for. It teaches us something. Numerous times, very important halachos are learned from seemingly extra letters. Why then does the Torah repeat these words 3 times? The Zera Shimshon uses the following Rambam to answer this question. The Rambam writes, Hilchot Trumos, that according to the Torah's obligations, one is only required to give Truma to the Kohen in Eretz Israel. The prophets came along and instituted the Truma should also be given from the produce from the land of Shinar, since most of the Jews lived there. The earlier Chachamim further instituted the Truma should also be given from the lands of Egypt, Ammon, and Moab, being that these lands are close to Eretz Israel, and the Jews spread out to those lands over time. Based on this Rambam, the Zera Shimshon explains that these Pesukim and the 3 times the words Lo Yehyeh are repeated is to hint to these 3 Trumos that belong to the Kohen. The one obligated by the Torah from Eretz Israel only, the one from Shinar instituted by the Nevi'im, and the one instituted by the earlier Chachamim for the lands of Egypt, Ammon, and Moab. This is why the Torah repeats the words Lo Yehyeh, it shall be his, 3 times. The wise tithe. The man shall bring his wife to the Kohen. So basically, we have to give, and we have to extend it, the Truma, the tzedakah, to the Kohen. The man shall bring his wife to the Kohen. The crown of the wise is their wealth, but the foolishness of the fools is but foolishness. In this piece, the Zera Shimshon explains why the crown of the wise is their wealth, seemingly contradictory to every other teaching our sages teach us about riches. As well, the end of the pasuk needs elucidation, as it seems repetitious and is ambiguous. He explains based on the following Gemaras. The Gemara says in Shabbos 119a, tithe so that you shall become rich. If one fulfills the mitzvah of Maaseh properly, he will not lose. Instead, he will only gain financially. Regarding the tithing of produce, there's another Gemara that contrasts the willingness of the earlier generations to fulfill the mitzvahs, which with the lack thereof of the later generations, who look to exempt themselves from being required to do certain mitzvahs. The earlier generations brought their produce through the main entrance of their house. According to halacha, this obligated them to separate the required matzah. They did this intentionally so that they would be obligated to fulfill the mitzvah. The later generations did the exact opposite. They especially brought the produce through the roof, skylight, and other back entrances so that they would not be obligated halachically to separate maaseh. Concerning one who does not separate the necessary gifts from his produce, the Gemara says, Brachos 63a, the following frightening statement. One who does not give Truma and Maaseh to the Kohen eventually will have to come on to the Kohen to check his wife for being a Sota, potentially unfaithful. With these introductions, the Zera Shimshon explains the Pasuk. When a person follows the laws of Maaser properly, he is blessed with wealth. This person is indeed a wise person, and his wisdom is mirrored by his wealth, since it is indicative that he follows the mitzvah of Maaser as he should. The fool, on the other hand, who tries to free himself of the obligation of Maaser, thinking that he is being wise and will profit more like this, only goes from one foolishness to another. Firstly, he does not end up gaining financially. And the second foolishness that results from his act is the fact that now he will have the anguish of having to take his wife to the Kohen as a Sota. A truly wise person gives the tithes required of him by the Torah and saves himself future anguish and financial loss. The fool, for short-term gain, thinks he's being wise by holding back these gifts, but only suffers in the end. So basically, in the olden times, they used to bring the produce from the door, and the law was that whatever came from the door, that's what you required to give 10% off. And they found a loophole. If you bring it from the roof, if you bring it from the window or the back, you're not required to give it to 10%. They said, oh, let's do this. So Torah says, don't be a fool. Don't be silly. Because if you try to avoid giving Truma, you're going to end up coming back to Cohen because you are suspecting your wife because of the Sota laws, that she's not faithful. Don't do it. A wise person separates and gives. So if you know somebody who is needy, I know somebody here actually on the chat. She's a very special girl and she needs help. Please reach out to me if you want to donate. And I will tell you the coordination of how to reach out to that person directly. Please help people. And Hashem should bless you with health, with wealth. Again, it should be dedicated for all those names mentioned in the beginning of the shur, as well as for Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, Chana Bracha Baslan Tzipor Chaya, Esther Malka Bat Shura, Avinoam Yosef Nissim Ben Shoshana Rosa, Tamara Bat Ksiya, Maxim Yehuda Ben Yafa, Moshe Ben Yafa, Maya Mazal Bat Ziva, Bat Sheva Bat Maya Mazal, Tamara Bat Ksiya, Zoe Bat Tamara, Nachana Bat Tamara, Yonatan Ben Hila, Larissa Lei Bat Shura, Malkiel Ben Shura, Yulia Yeshua Bat Chaya Esther, for Refuah Shlema of also Levi Yosef Ben Zuleicho, Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. And all the sick people of Clarksville, I mentioned in the beginning, the dedications is just in addition to. Let it be for Leilu Nishmat, my mother, Shoshura Bat Chusni, Leilu Nishmat, my neighbor, Sarah Bat Shoshana, Leilu Nishmat, Rabbi Zachariah, Shimon Wallace, Timon Yitzchak Cohen, Dr. Zelenka, Velva, Vilza, Belea, Leilu Nishmat, Kfir Ben Shiri, Ariel Ben Shiri, Shiri Bat Sarah Imenu, all the tzaddikim and tzaddikot who were killed on October 7 before and after. The Mashiach come Bakarov, may we see our relatives, be reunited with them. May we all be healed. When Mashiach comes, we're all going to be healed. Hashem, please forgive us and accept our teshuvah. May we all be blessed with a strong health. Briyut, Refuah Shlema. You can do it. I trust in you and I believe in you. Have a blessed day and evening. Thank you for joining us.
Аминь. Спасибо большое. Боше Телем Рабанит. Спасибо.
Thank you. You too. Вам также. Спасибо большое.
Спасибо.